Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have another fabulous interview for you today as we're leading up to the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference 2026. Yay!
Yay! Yes, I am Cindy Smith, and I am the faculty chair for the 2026 Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. So I'm excited today to introduce Sean Gaffney. So welcome, Sean. It's so good to have you here. I got to meet you in person last year.
I know, yay.
Yeah, and then my husband's name is Sean, so your name is very easy to remember.
We kind of bonded on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as we get started, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, like where you're hailing from, and maybe what you like to do for fun?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm currently in Kentucky. I teach at Asbury University. I'm a professor down here in the media program, focusing primarily on screenwriting for both the undergrads and the grads. Originally from upstate New York, and I was a city boy up until now. I lived in New York City, Seattle, Los Angeles, and then God said, "Go teach," and here I am. Couldn't be happier. It's almost a full circle for me because the Asbury's in a small town that has it has two stoplights and it needs none, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in a village that didn't have a stoplight, so it's kind of like, okay, great place to land for now.
Awesome.
And what I like to do for fun, this is anywhere else it isn't as cliche as it is here, but I love to read. I love books of all kinds. I'm pretty much the kind of homebody. My wife and I are looking at doing a cruise. We have our 30th anniversary coming up.
Oh, wow.
And the picture I keep going to is in the Viking cruise ads. There's a woman sitting on a couch in front of a window reading a book. And I'm like, oh, can we do that? You don't need to go anywhere to do that. You do that all the time. But that's my dream.
Yeah. I tell you what, we took our family on our first Disney cruise this last spring. So it's been almost a year. And I legit went out on the deck and read a book in the sun with the ocean in front of me. It was a fantastic place to read.
Awesome.
So I highly encourage it. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. Like, I sat down and I was like, why am I reading on the cruise ship? I could read anywhere, but it's my favorite thing to do. So I'm going to do it. It's all about that. So, Sean, what kind of writing do you enjoy most?
Yeah, so the question's an easy one till you say the word most. I do a wide variety of writing. I've never specialized, which I even tell my students, like, if you want your career to go faster, specialize. But if you want to have nonstop fun, just keep asking God, what do you want me to write next? So I started in theater as a theater producer before becoming a full-time writer. And so my first foray, it was plays. And I still write plays, still love writing plays. And then I sold a script to a video company and realized you can actually make money as a writer in the film and television world. So I started writing both film and television, short film. I've done a lot of work in animation, a lot of kids projects. It's just really fun to write kids projects. But I also do more grown-up things. So I have an adaptation of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a gothic horror, all kind of exploring the question of what happens when we say we can be God. And then rom-coms. I don't know. I never thought of myself as a rom-com guy until I got a couple made, and then suddenly like, oh wait, I guess I like this. So I am all over the map. Even my books have, murder mysteries. I love reading murder mysteries. I love writing murder mysteries. But I also have, like I said, children's books, and kind of I'm loving the young adult world, kind of the middle school age crowd is I'm really enjoying that right now. So everywhere. My writing has always been just being open to, okay, what's next? And when I get an idea, rather than saying, well, I'm a screenwriter, so this idea has to be a movie, I say, well, what's the best way to tell this story? Is it best as a short story? Is it best as a book? Is it best as a play? Is it best as a television show? And thankfully, God has blessed me with a career where I've been able to dip my toes into so many different markets. that I haven't had to say, yep, I can't work on that idea because it's best as a comic book, and I'm not allowed to do that. That's what I want to do next. I want to write a comic book someday.
Oh,
Oh,
fun. That's
fun.
fun. Yes.
Yeah. I tend to write, or I have written all clean / Christian historical romance, and just recently completed my first rom-com. I'm doing a project with a couple of other authors, like a little trilogy, and it was so much fun. I can totally relate to what you're saying about just asking God, what do you want me to do next? And then experiencing the different flavors of the buffet of writing and publishing.
Yeah. And I thought my first book that I've written is a contemporary romance. And I had this list of all of these historical things that I wanted to write after I finished it. And God's like, no, I want you to write another contemporary romance. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I'll be obedient. But yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Sean read your book on writing, and he loved your story about how you wrote for VeggieTales and how you wrote King George and the Ducky, which was one of my girls. King George and the Ducky and the Esther video were their favorites. They wanted to watch those over and over again when they were little. So could you tell us about that experience?
That was my first sale in the non-play world, in the video television world. Technically it'd be considered television. It was kind of a fluke, that sale. So, I wrote the story. I'm credited with the story for King George. Phil Vischer is the one who rewrote me on it. It was the very first video script I ever wrote. I used to use that as an example of how to not write a video script, because looking back on it now, once you have experience, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did what I did. But the joy of it, I wrote it on a dare. I wasn't even intending on selling it. I had no intention of getting it to the VeggieTales people, of it ever being made. I was having a conversation. This was in the early days of VeggieTales. I loved it. I was among a group of adults who loved VeggieTales. And in talking with a friend, he said, oh, too bad they're so limited. And I said, well, what do you mean limited? And he said, well, there's so many Bible stories you could never tell for children. And I said, like what? And they said, well, like David and Bathsheba. You could never tell that story for children. So I went and wrote King George and the Ducky to prove that you could tell that story for children. You just need to reframe it. So I wrote it on a dare just for fun. And then thought nothing of it until a friend of mine, Brian Ballinger, was being interviewed. He was working for Microsoft as an animator, and they were trying to woo him away to Big Idea. And during one of his interviews, they said, so what else can we do to convince you to move to Chicago? And he said, well, while we're talking, would you read my friend's script? And handed it to them in the meeting. Which you don't do. Don't do that, people. You don't do that. But one of their executives read it during the interview and was kind of giggling about it. So then they initially made an offer for it, to buy it. And then rescinded it within 24 hours. Because here's what happened is my version was not King George and the Ducky. It was King David and the Bath Ducky. And it was set as a Bible story. And after they bought it, somebody's like, well, what's going to happen when the kids go, oh, I want to find this Bible story in the Bible. And then they read it, and then they're asking their parents questions like, what is adultery? If anybody hasn't seen King George, it's about a king who collects bath ducks, little rubber duckies. In fact, I can show you. I have mine from the premiere. So he's got these little rubber duckies. Awesome. And one day he sees a kid with a rubber ducky, and he wants that kid's rubber ducky, and then it goes from there. So there's no mention of adultery in our version, but absolutely in the Bible version. So then flash forward about a year, they're big ideas in production on something, but the script is just not working. It's not working. And they have to get started right away. They need a script, and somebody says, well, what about that duck script from a year ago? So Phil took the script home, came back and said, problem solved. We're going to set it medieval time. We're going to call it King George. Nobody's going to know it's a Bible story except for the people who already know the Bible story, and they already have their questions answered. And then, and I've actually talked to people who said, yeah, I remember the first time that I was in church and they started preaching about King David. And I'm like, oh, that's just like that VeggieTales story. And then realizing, oh, it is the VeggieTales story. So that's the story. And then Phil rewrote it. He did what we call a page one rewrite. a lot of writers get upset about being rewritten. I am glad he made my career because he made me look so good with that
Oh, that's
script.
awesome.
So yeah, that's the King George story.
I love it.
Yeah, and I absolutely think there's a lot of application for, of course, your students, but also for writers at large. This idea of what you said about being rewritten. I mean, editors and
Yes.
acquisition editors and marketing experts, they're there to make your story stronger. They're not picking at you,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and
Exactly.
so it can make all the difference if you
Yeah.
are willing to work with these professionals instead of saying, no, it's my baby, you can't do that.
Yeah. If I write it like that, then it will be as good as I can be. If I accept collaboration, if I accept partners in on it, whether it be the editors, whoever it is giving the notes, it's not addition. It's not like, oh, this is me plus the power of the editor. It's
Right.
multiplication. It's me times the power of the editor. It's me
Wow.
times the power. So yeah, being humble enough and realizing that our art is not ours. It only exists because of the reader.
Yeah.
If there was no reader, there is no book. So it is a collaboration no matter what.
That's
Because we're
wonderful.
collaborating with the reader. So
Yeah.
why not come into it with the mindset of this isn't mine anyway?
Yeah,
I
I like to say the first draft is for me. The
Yes.
revisions are for the reader. The edits are for the reader.
Sarah, that's
And
a
so,
wonderful way to look at it.
yeah, I
I'm going to
learned that
steal
early
that.
on. Okay, you're welcome to. Yeah. But we are so excited to have you join our faculty this year. And your workshops, I'll just go ahead and share the titles of your workshops with our listeners today. Writing deeper characters using biblical techniques, cracking the code, story structure that works, and is your book ready for its close-up, a practical workshop on adapting books for film and TV. Now, these classes that you are preparing, these workshops that you're preparing, would you say they're more instructional, interactive, inspirational, a mix of some of those? How would you describe it?
Yeah, definitely a mix, especially looking at the writing deeper characters using biblical techniques and cracking the code. They're both very kind of hands-on, practical, how to write better, and both of them how to write better by using 2,000-year-old, 6,000-year-old techniques. You know what? We don't need to constantly be thinking that we need to reinvent the world. Sometimes we just need to look at it with fresh eyes. So both of those kind of are deeper dives into technique. You'll be taking a lot of notes in there of very practical ways that you can apply that to your own writing. So those definitely have that instructional element, and both of them will also have interactive as we go. Is your book ready for the close-up? Is much more interactive as far as hopefully you'll be coming in thinking of your own book going, okay, how do I apply this? How do I apply that to it? So yeah, I guess all three, instructional, interactive, because especially the first two, they're so rooted in the Bible. They're so rooted in faith that they hopefully will be inspirational as well, but in a different kind of a way. It'll be kind of, oh, I can go back into my own writing. I can bring God into my writing more. I can bring the Holy Spirit into my writing more in practical ways. I think we often think of how do you bring God into your writing? Well, I pray more, which is true. And if you're not doing that, if you're not starting with prayer, good luck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but there's also the oh no, the practical. My character is designed this way because I'm using the model of Moses. My character is designed this way because this is the way our psychology works. Oh, I can have my character more flawed. I always thought that my protagonist has to be perfect. Well, let's look at the Bible and see how many protagonists are perfect. One, right? Beyond that, oh, what is the model? How do we use the flaws? How do we use the flaw of David to make a stronger story and to actually glorify God even more? Whether writing in the Christian market or whether writing for the secular market, they're all the same rules. They all apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've always been interested in writing a screenplay. So how is writing a screenplay different from writing a novel?
Wow. Yeah. And we have entire semester long classes on that. We're going to hit a lot of the topic, a lot of that in this session. And I'm also, the other thing, just for anybody who hasn't been to the Kentucky conference, the faculty are just so available. We're there. This will be my first time, but I experienced it last time as a consumer. So also I'll be there to, if anybody wants to talk about more about it. But they're two different languages is the best way to think about it. Is the novel uses the language of words to create details, to really explore themes. Novel's an amazing place to explore theme. Linda Seeger, who we just lost recently, but she's a Hollywood consultant. She's a script doctor, also happens to be a Christian, and she talks about that language and what it does best. Film, on the other hand, the language of film is the image. It's visual, which builds action, which tells stories. So film is much stronger at storytelling. It uses theme and it has theme, but the theme there serves the story. Whereas in novels, the story serves the theme. Everything in a novel is there because we're saying something. So all of the details, this is why, you get away with, telling your story about the Hunchback or your story about Les Mis, and suddenly there's a chapter about the sewer systems in Paris. Like, why? Why is that there? Because it's building that theme. It's not throwaway. It's building that theme. In a movie, you're probably not going to stop the movie to insert a documentary about how the sewers were made, right? Because you're in motion with the film. So it's kind of like learning how to turn on that visual lens versus that interior lens. So that's one of the big differences. The other is immediacy. The novel, you have a chance to sit back and comment on, whereas film, you're in the moment. You're experiencing it as the characters are experiencing it. So there's not that, you don't have that option, that glorious option you get in the book of taking a step back and going, okay, now let's, here's what I'm thinking about that. Here's what the characters are thinking about that. Here's how we can focus, comment more on it. Or, oh yeah, she's just like her mother. Her mother would do this similar kind of thing. You have this introspection that you don't have in the movement of the film. But the glory thing about the film too is it's constant discovery for the audience, because you're learning this as the characters are learning it. You're inside of the moment, you're feeling it. All of screenplays are written in present tense. There is no past tense, because everything is happening right now as we discover it. So those are two of the kind of mindsets. When you're a writer, you have to get inside of the scene in a different way in the screenplay than you do in the novel. So that's just a taste. There's a lot more.
Oh yeah,
that
we don't want. It's interesting. I was, when you were, some of the things you were saying, I thought of how when the Hunger Games first came out, my girls wanted to read it, so we as a family read it together. And then, like, the first book is so much in Katniss's head. I was thinking, well, how are they going to transfer that to the movie? Yeah. And I think they did a phenomenal job.
They did a great job with the first book.
Yeah. And likewise, I think too, there's a lot that novelists can learn from the movie industry in the need to show and not tell, because in a movie you do a lot of showing.
Yes. We'll talk about that. Because show not tell is true in all formats. It's just what we mean by it, I think, is often confused. People say, oh, no dialogue, but you can show in dialogue, right? You have a guy who just lost his wife, and he's talking about pizza, and he's just talking about, oh, it just makes me so angry at that place because they used to use this old school pepperoni and they don't use it anymore. It's not there. Like, every time I bite into it, I'm expecting. He's showing, right? He's talking about his wife, but he's not talking about his wife. So that one of the things that I love about being here at Asbury is that our creative writing program through the English department is very closely knit with our screenwriting program. So the creative writers often will take our screenwriting classes. Our screenwriters are required to take the creative writing classes. And it does open that up to you of realizing, oh yeah, that thing that is a normal language in film, I can transfer it to my novel writing and just deepen my novel writing by taking those techniques, and vice versa. Some of my favorite screenwriters here on campus are actually creative writing students who are discovering this visual media for the first time, discovering how to use poetry in dialogue. It's fun. Yeah. It's a blast.
That's amazing. So you've shared with us a little bit more about how practical your workshops are going to be. So without giving it away, but giving us, again, more of a little taste, what can participants expect to walk away with after attending one of your sessions?
They'll walk away with a whole lot of ways to improve their drafts. For the writing deeper characters, just ways of taking that next step of how do we make our characters more grounded? How do we make our characters more relatable? How do we make our characters feel real on the page? For the cracking the code, I come from, my whole book is based on the idea that we're hardwired for story, that God specifically gives us ways of telling stories that are designed to bring us closer to him. And this is true whether it's the Spider-Man movies or whether it's, The Chosen. Right. They're all designed. There are elements of it that are designed to draw us closer. So certainly one of the things that you'll walk away with, I think, is a greater appreciation of how all story is God's story and how you can better join in on that hard wiring.
That's awesome.
It's interesting as you say that. I have a sticky note on my computer here that says, "My words, his story." And I have that there to remind me that as much as it's, there's a business side to writing, there's a creative side to writing, but as a Christian, and even non-Christians too, tell this story, as you're saying, they tell his story over and over and over again, whether they mean to or not, because it's so innate to who we are. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I do too. Lastly, we're having a conference. What is your favorite thing about Writers Conference, and why should someone sign up for one? That was a tongue twister.
That was a tongue twister. Well done. There's so many elements, but the surprising element, despite the fact that I'm here to sell my sessions, is the sessions are a great part of the conferences and a lot of what you take away. The community is the gift of conferences. The people that you meet, the aha moments when you go, oh, you're like me. I'm not alone. You think like me. You're my people. You're going to find your people at these conferences. You're going to find the people who think the weird ways you do. You're going to find the people who, when you say I'm going on a cruise, you're like, oh, great. What books are you taking? So thank you, Sarah. Right? Like, we get it. We get each other. And those are encouragements that help. Writing can be such a solitary existence. And we're made for community. We're born for community. The church is not a group of individuals who sit in basements thinking theology. The church is a group of people who get together and love on each other. So for me, I'm always happy with the content, the things I can walk away. I know that you've got some people coming back from last year, like Larry Leach, and I'm like, can't wait to see what he has to teach this year, because there's just so many great things that I'm walking away with. But the things that I'm downloading to my wife after our conference is over are, oh yeah, and then I had lunch and these 3 people were at this lunch and we got talking about this. And then I had this chance meeting with this agent, and I was like, oh, I went into the conference thinking I hope I get some time to talk to an agent. And then I had this chance meeting and we didn't even talk about my book at all. We just talked about this other life thing that inspired me so much that I know what I'm going to do with my character in the next book because of this conversation. It's those chance meetings with those like-minded people that challenge you, that expand you, that push you beyond your normal boundaries, but also reinforce that yes, you're where you're supposed to be. Yes, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. There are many vacations. There are many soul vacations of, oh, my soul can be at rest and be excited all at the same time by being surrounded by this community.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd
That's
say.
wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for joining us today
Thank you for having me.
for coming on faculty this year. We are more than thrilled that you'll be a part of Kentucky Christian Writers Conference again, but this time as a teaching faculty member.
Yeah.
Thank you so
I'm
much for
excited.
having me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And everybody else, we'll see you guys in the next video.